The Earth is about to capture a mini-moon, but there's something mysterious and odd about this one that's coming at us. We all know and love our moon, the Earth's natural satellite and companion for billions of years, but it's not our only companion. And now and again we see smaller objects temporarily get captured in our planet's orbit because of the Earth's gravity. They hang around for a short time, and a few months or years later, they're flung out back into space. We call these objects mini-moons. We've had a few tentative detections of such temporary asteroids captured by our Earth's gravity. Only two have ever been confirmed. That's 2006 RH120. It visited us in 2006 and 7, and 2020 CD3 in Earth's orbit from 2018 to this year. Now astronomers are spotting a new object named 220SO. It's incoming towards our Earth, and its path is likely to see it temporarily captured by Earth's gravity. The projections of this path have an object arriving at us next month, October 2020. It will be hanging around until May of next year, and then it will depart for other environs, somewhere in space. Now we have a simulation. The object's trajectory suggests it will enter and leave through two of Earth's Lagrange points, gravitational stable points created by Earth's gravitational intersection with our Sun. And I'll leave a link below for you on Science Alert. You could see that video. I'm not putting it on for you because it would be a Creative Commons infringement. Now, it would be extremely noteworthy, but there's a twist. The Earth-like orbit and the low velocity, the very low speed of this SO220 suggests that it's not actually an asteroid. It could be something else, because asteroids come in at thousands of miles an hour. Now, its characteristics, according to experts, are more consistent with something that is human-made, man-made. 220SO has been classified as an Apollo asteroid, that is in the JPL small body database. We know Apollo asteroids cross Earth's path, trajectory, and they are, of course, dangerous because they cross Earth's trajectory. Now, these Apollo asteroids are a class of asteroids whose path crosses Earth's orbit, and this class of asteroids often has near-Earth encounters. But there are a few clues that 220SO is not like these Apollo asteroids. The object is on an orbit that's just a smidge over a year, and it's on a very low inclination with respect to Earth's orbit. That is, it's not tilted, but on the same orbital path as Earth. It has eccentricity. The deviation of the shape of the orbit from a perfect circle is just a little higher than Earth's orbit, and its velocity is much, much lower than the speed of Apollo asteroids. Now, the space archaeologist Alice Gorman of Flinders University, Australia, said, "The velocity seems to be a big one. What I'm seeing is that it's just moving too slowly, which reflects its initial velocity. That's essentially a big giveaway," she explains to us. Objects that have come from the moon have a lower velocity than asteroids, but Gorman said 220SO is even slower than moon rocks. So at this point, the objects potentially being space junk, specifically according to Paul Chodos of JPL, that he discarded the Centaur stage of a rocket. There could be a rocket part launched an experimental payload called Surveyor 2 to the moon back in September of 1966. Kevin Hydra tweeted, 220SO is suspected of being a Space Surveyor 2 Centaur rocket booster launched 20th September 1966. This Earth-like orbit and low relative velocity suggests a possible man-made object. These reusable rockets are only a recent invention because retrieval is incredibly technically difficult. Widely used solution for decades was to launch multi-stage rockets designed to fall apart. The booster stage falls back to Earth for reuse. The rest of the rocket transporting the payload is discarded in space once the job is done. Now, these discarded stages they constitute a lot of space junk that is floating around above Earth's atmosphere, and according to Gorman, they're surprisingly easy to lose. She said there are so many factors in the space environment, like gravitational factors and other things that affect movement. It can sometimes be quite unpredictable. You have to keep tracking these things, or you can just sort of lose sight of them really easily. And if they do something a little bit unpredictable, you look the wrong way, then you don't know where it's gone. It's quite astonishing the number of things that have gone missing. Now, there are people that say we have so much space junk up there that there should be private companies that could make a lot of money doing this, like collecting space junk, getting rid of it, or bringing it back to Earth for use, whatever. Now, the estimated size of this 220 SO matches the properties of a 1960s era Centaur stage booster. According to NASA's CNEO's database, the object is between 21 and 46 feet long. A Centaur stage measures about that much, 22 feet long. Asteroids are detected in the sky as moving bright objects, a dot in the darkness, and from what we can infer, the speed and orbit make an estimate of the size, but it's impossible to determine shapes or composition without more detailed observations. Now, concerning this mysterious 220 SO, it's due to make two close paths towards our Earth, one being December 1st, 2020. It will pass by a distance of about 31,000 miles. On around February 2nd, 2021, it will fly at 220,000 kilometers flyby. Neither is close enough to enter Earth's atmosphere, and the object poses no danger at all to us here on Earth, but those distances, particularly at low speeds, may be enough to study it more closely to find out what this 220 SO actually is. We may be able to make out a rough shape. Spectroscopy could help determine if the object is painted. How much light it reflects could even provide information to help plan long-term space missions. Now, if 220 SO is that 1966 Centaur stage booster, it's been out in space for 54 years, this human-made spacecraft enduring space for all those decades. It would be interesting to do some reflectance spectroscopy, which would show how rough the surfaces are, how much is being pitted and decayed from being bombarded by dust and micrometeorites, Gorman explained. And she goes on to say it's human material that's been out in space for over 5 decades, and it's interesting to see the results you get from the stuff in low Earth orbit, which is much, much denser in material. Now, if this is the rocket Centaur booster, 220 SO properties can help us identify other near-Earth objects in the future. If it's man-made, human-made, that means the next time we see an object with similar properties, we may have a bit more information supporting an anthropogenic origin. If it's an asteroid, though, that means we have a really weird rock in our hands demonstrating that asteroids can move very much like rocket stages, very slow and around our path of Earth's trajectory. Now, whatever this 220 SO is, we'll have a lot to learn from our incoming mysterious guests in the next few weeks. This is on Space Alert by Michael Starr. Please leave your comment. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, And we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.